So let us start with the introduction part. So you know the eye is the visual organ. 70% of all the receptors are present in the eye, whereas the remaining 30 to 40, mainly the 30% of the receptors or the cerebral cortex, mainly the 40% of the cerebral cortex, those are involved in processing those visual information. Now you know the three different layer of eyeball. Thus, you know the three different layer of the eyeball. We have the outer layer, middle and the inner. The outer layer is known as the fibrous coat, which consists of the sclera and cornea. Next one is the middle layer. The middle layer is known as the vascular coat, which mainly consists of choroid, ciliary body and the iris. And the inner part, the inner is known as the nervous coat, which mainly consists of the single structure known as the retina. So those are the three different layers of the eyeball. Now let us start with the outermost layer. The outermost layer is the fibrous coat, which is further divided into two. We have the sclera on a posterior side and the cornea on the anterior side. Now the sclera is the white opaque region which occupy around posterior 5 to 6 part out of 5 to 6 of the eyeball, whereas the cornea is present anteriorly and it occupy 1/6 of the eyeball. What's the main function of the sclera? The main function of the sclera is it provides the shape to the eyeball. Next one is, you know, the extraocular muscle. We have the superior rectus, inferior rectus, medial rectus, lateral rectus, superior oblique, inferior oblique. Those are known as the extraocular muscle, which will be attached to the fibrous coat or which will be attached to the sclera. So that is also another function of the sclera. Now, in this diagram, you can see the various structure which will pierce the sclera. Now, you can see over here, this one is known as the optic nerve. Now, in the middle part of the optic nerve, can you see the artery and the vein? Those are known as the central artery and the central vein of retina. Now, this central artery and the central vein of the retina will pierce the sclera. Next one is, we have the posterior ciliary artery and the vein. Now, this one is the posterior ciliary vessels. This will also pierce the sclera. Now next is, can you see the one long one which is going anteriorly? This is known as the anterior ciliary artery. This anterior ciliary artery will pierce the anterior part of the sclera. And next one, we have the vein known as the verticose vein or also known as the choroid vein. This choroid vein will also pierce the sclera. So we just have mainly the four main structure or the four main structure which will pierce the sclera: central artery and the vein of the retina, posterior and the anterior ciliary artery. Next one is the choroid vein. The next one, this one is known as the cornea. The cornea is the transparent one, the sclera is the opaque one. So the cornea is the transparent one and it will occupy the 1/6 of the eyeball. Now what is the main function of the cornea? The main function is it is mainly responsible for the refraction of the light, refraction of those light that will enter into the eyeball. And another important thing of the cornea which you have to remember is it is avascular. It does not have any blood capillary blood supply blood vessels. Now next one is it does not have any lymphatic drainage, right? Devoid of lymphatics. Now this is avascular, so though it is avascular, it has to receive the nutrition. Now from where it will get the nutrition? It will get the nutrition from the aqueous humor. You can see the aqueous humor in the anterior chamber of the eyeball. So over here, now from the aqueous humor, through the process of the diffusion, the cornea will receive the nutrition. That is one way. Now next one is, we have the lacrimal secretion. So the lacrimal secretion, from there also, it will receive the nutrition. And the third one is, this one is known as the conjunctiva. Can you see the conjunctiva? Can you see the cornea? At the junction of the conjunctiva and the cornea, this junction is known as the conjunctivo. Hello?
Hello.
Hello? This one, can you see this part? This is known as conjunctiva, this is known as the cornea. Now can you see the junction of conjunctiva and the cornea? This is known as the conjunctivo-corneal junction. So at that part we have the capillary. At the periphery of this part we have the capillary. From there the cornea will receive the nutrition by diffusion. So it has got a various way of receiving the nutrition, okay? And the nutrition is mainly by the diffusion process. Okay. So mainly the cornea will receive the nutrition from the diffusion, from the aqueous humor, from the lacrimal secretion, and from the capillary over here. Okay. Now, what is the nerve supply of the cornea? The nerve supply is, it is mainly supplied by the ophthalmic nerve through long ciliary nerve. Now this long ciliary nerve, you know the division of the ophthalmic nerve. Last time I taught you about the three different branches of the ophthalmic nerve: lacrimal, nasociliary, and next one is frontal. Okay. So this long ciliary nerve is the branch of the nasociliary nerve. This is the nerve supply. Now next important thing which you have to remember is the sclerocorneal junction. This one is very important for your spotter. Okay. So we have the sclerocorneal junction. This one is the cornea, this one is the sclera. So over here we have the sclerocorneal junction. Now at the junction of the sclera and the cornea, can you see the endothelial line circular canal? This one. This is the endothelial line circular canal. This is known as the canal of Schlemm or the sinus venous sclera. Okay. So the canal of Schlemm or the sinus venous sclera, it is the same one. This is the endothelially lined circular canal which is present at the junction of the sclera and the cornea. This one is known as this one. Okay. This one is known as the canal of Schlemm, and this junction is known as the sclerocorneal junction. Now see over here. So what is the main function of this canal of Schlemm? This is the anterior chamber. So over here we have the aqueous humor. Okay. So this one is over here we have the aqueous humor. Now this is the aqueous is drained from the anterior chamber to the canal of Schlemm through iridocorneal angle. So can you see the angle between the iris and the cornea? This angle. अब यो एंगलबाट के गर्छ aqueous humor, the aqueous will drain to the canal of Schlemm through iridocorneal junction. So aqueous humor, iridocorneal junction हुँदै it will enter into the canal of Schlemm. Now from the canal of Schlemm, where it will enter into anterior ciliary vein. Can you see over here? यो conjunctiva हो नि त हैन, यो cornea हो. So conjunctiva corneal junction ma can you see the capillaries? Can you see the vein? Oh, this vein is the anterior ciliary vein, this one. Now the anterior ciliary vein and the canal of Schlemm is attached with each other by the aqueous vein. देखियो aqueous vein देखियो यो? And this aqueous vein does not have any this is not devoid of valve हो है यो, याद गरे. So it does not have any valve. So from the canal of Schlemm, from the canal of Schlemm, the aqueous will enter into anterior ciliary vein through aqueous vein. Now I'll just stress the drainage of the aqueous humor. So from the aqueous humor, from the anterior chamber, it will pass through the iridocorneal junction. It will enter into the canal of Schlemm. अब canal of Schlemm but aqueous vein it will enter into the anterior ciliary vein. Now whenever you have the problem in the drainage or system, or whenever the drainage is blocked, then what will happen? The intraocular pressure will rise because we have the lot of amount of the aqueous humor over here, which will increase the pressure, that is known as the glaucoma. Okay? That is known as glaucoma. So this is all about the sclerocorneal junction. Is it clear? Sclerocorneal junction?
Ma'am, actually, फेरि भन्दिनु न
के कहाँबाट स्टार्ट गर्दिनु? कुन चाहिँ भन्ने भन त? हेलो कुन पार्ट भन्दिनु भन त?
म्याम त्यो एक्युएस भेन पछिको भनिदिनु न, त्यो एन्टेरियरमा चाहिँ
एक्युस भेन. ल म स्टार्टिङबाट एक्युस फ्लोर भनिदिन्छु है. सो फ्रम एन्टियर च्याम्बरमा वी हेभ द एक्युस. Oh, so this aqueous humor will drain from the anterior chamber to canal of Schlemm through iridocorneal junction. You buzio? Yazama buzio? Now the fluid will enter into the canal of Schlemm. Now from the canal of Schlemm, the fluid will enter into the aqueous vein. Through the aqueous vein, it will enter into the anterior ciliary vein. So this is the drainage of aqueous humor. बुझ्यो भयो?
बुझ्यो म्याम।
Anterior chamber, iridocorneal junction, canal of Schlemm, aqueous vein, then we have got the anterior ciliary vein. यो यसको. The next one is the medial vascular cord. So the medial vascular cord is also known as uveal tract. So the uveal tract में के पर्छ? Uveal tract consists of choroid. It consists of the choroid. It consists of ciliary body and the iris. So the iris, ciliary body, and the choroid is combinedly known as the uveal tract, which is highly vascular and pigmented. Now first we'll move to the choroid part. Now this choroid is vascular. It is thin, vascular and pigmented structure which is present between the sclera and the retina. Now this one is mainly present on the posterior 5/6 of the vascular cord. It occupies the posterior 5/6 of the vascular cord. It consists of the melanocytes, so it's just impart the brown color. Next one, what is the main function of the choroid? It supports the inner layer. It supports the retina. It provides the nutrition to the outermost part of the retina. Next one, it helps in the absorption of the light, and it prevents the scattering of the light ray within the eye. So that is the function of the choroid. Now next, we'll move to the ciliary body. So you can see over here, this is the ciliary body and this one is the iris. So iris, ciliary body and the choroid is combinedly known as the uveal tract or the second layer. Now this ciliary body, it is the thickened ring of the tissue which will encircle the lens. Now it is anteriorly continue with the iris and it is posteriorly continue with the choroid. Now can you see the ciliary body is over here, and this over in the lower part we have the lens, and both are suspended, or the lens is suspended through the suspensory ligament of lens. You can see the suspensory ligament. Can you see the suspensory ligament? Now through the suspensory ligament, the lens is suspended and it helps in the accommodation of for the near vision. Now the ciliary body, this is the ciliary body. The ciliary body mainly consists of three parts. This is known as the ciliary body, this one. This is known as the ciliary ring. Hello? Hello? के भइरहेछ? तपाईहरुको माइक्रोफोन body consists of the three part. The posterior part, can you see the posterior part of the body? This is known as the ciliary ring, this one. And this one is known as the ciliary muscle, which is the smooth muscle. And next one, we can see the ridges or the fold over here, which will give rise to the attachment of the suspensory ligament of the lens. So this process or this fold is known as the ciliary process. This is the ciliary process, ciliary muscle, and the posterior part of the ciliary body is known as the ciliary ring. So what is the main importance of the suspensory ligament? Here is the suspensory ligament. What will happen when the ciliary muscle will contract? When the ciliary muscle will contract, this will make the suspensory ligament of the lens to relax. Now when the suspensory ligament of the lens will relax, this will cause the thickening of the lens. So finally the lens will get thickened, and this will help in the accommodation for the near vision. I've already told you the accommodation reflex. Pupillary light reflex, accommodation reflex. So same thing way here. The next one is the iris. So this one is the color part of the eye. It is a circular. It consists of the pigment, and this pigment is going to determine the color of the eye. Okay. And this one. So over here in the iris, we have the contractile muscles are there. We have those are the contractile part. Now and the peripheral part of the peripheral part. Can you see the peripheral part of the iris? The peripheral part of the iris is attached to the ciliary body. Now you just see. So it consists of the central aperture. This one is known as the pupil. The central aperture which is present in the iris, this is known as the pupil. And the iris itself, this iris itself consists of the smooth muscle. It has the two different types of muscle. One is known as the sphincter pupillae, next one is known as the dilator pupillae. Now the sphincter pupillae is supplied by, it is innervated by sympathetic innervation हुन्छ कि parasympathetic sphincter मा sphincter pupillae is innervated by, it has got the sympathetic innervation or the parasympathetic?
Parasympathetic.
Sphincter pupillae has got the parasympathetic innervation, dilator pupillae has got the sympathetic innervation. Now next, the dilator pupillae, when the dilator pupillae will contract, के हुन्छ dilator pupillae contract भयो भने के हुन्छ? There will be the dilation of the pupil. Sphincter pupillae contract भयो भने there will be the constriction of the pupil. Now this one is the same thing. मैले अस्ति last time भनिसकेछु है यो. The pupillary light reflex. So whenever you pass the light into the eye, then the pupil will get dilated. Oh, you can see the dilation of the pupil over here. Oh, and this dilation of the pupil is mainly caused by the dilator pupillae. Now the innermost coat, this is known as the nervous coat, which is known as the retina. Now you can see over here, this is the posterior, this one is the posterior part, and this one is known as the anterior part of the retina. Now, whenever you see the anterior edge of the posterior part, you can you see the wavy nature over here? Can you see the wavy part? You take the wavy wala? This one, the wavy ring-like structure is known as the ora serrata. Okay. So the parts which is present anterior to the ora serrata, this one is the part of the retina present anterior to the ora serrata. This is non-photosensitive region. This is non-photosensitive region, whereas the posterior to the ora serrata, this one is known as the visual part. This is the photosensitive region. So the retina has the two regions. One is the photosensitive region and non-photosensitive region. Photosensitive regions are present posterior to the ora serrata, and anterior to the ora serrata, those are known as a non-photosensitive region. And this non-photosensitive region is mainly present in the inner surface of the ciliary body and the iris. You have already learned about the histology of retina. It mainly composed of the two different layers. One is known as the outer pigment layer. Next one is known as the inner nervous layer. I'll show you this one. This one is known as the outer pigment layer, and this one is known as the inner nervous layer. Now the outer pigment layer is mainly consists of the single layer of the cuboidal cells, and these are attached. This one is attached to the choroid. You can see the choroid. You can see the vitreous body over here, and this is the histological structure of the retina. This is the outer part. This one is known as the inner part. Now the inner nervous part will come in contact with the vitreous body, and it mainly consists of the three different types of neuron. One is known as the photoreceptor neuron, which consists of the rod and cone. Next one we have the bipolar neuron, and next one is known as the ganglionic cell layer. Also the same thing over here also. So this is the same thing. Right? This is the choroid. This is the outer pigmented part, and this is the nervous part. So over here we can see the rod and the cone, which are the photoreceptors. Then the bipolar cells are there. Then the ganglionic cells are there. The axon of the ganglionic cells will form the optic nerve. Now the photoreceptors, there are the two main types. One is known as the rod cells and the cone cells. The rod cells are, it will mainly respond to the dim light, whereas the cone cell will respond to the bright light. Now another one, this is very important, regional specialization of the retina. So what do you mean by the regional specialization of the retina? So over here there is some region in the retina which you have to remember. Now you can see over here and see this diagram. Can you see this one? This is known as the optic discs. 11, so optic disc. Now, which part of the retina is known as the optic disc? It is just opposite to the attachment of the optic nerve. Janira optic nerve attached bhako cha ni, त्यसको inner part ma we have the optic disc. So this is opposite to the attachment of the optic nerve, and over here in the optic disc there is no any rod and no cone. So rod is not present, rod and the cone, that means the photoreceptor cells are not present in the optic disc. That's why, as there is no any photoreceptor cells, it is insensitive to light and it is known as the blind spot. This is the optic disc. You buzio optic disc?
बुझ्यो भयो।
Now next one is now 3 mm lateral. 3 mm lateral to the optic disc. Can you see another depressed area? This is known as the macula lutea. 11, the macula lutea. So what do you mean by macula lutea? So the macula lutea is the depressed area which is present 3 mm lateral to the optic disc, and this mainly consists of the cone. And cone will respond to the dim light or the bright light. Bright light, you know. So it will respond to the bright light. So this is known as the macula lutea. Now this macula lutea, it does not consist of any blood vessels. It's not blood vessels. So it is receiving the nutrition from the diffusion process. Okay. Now the macula lutea, you can see the central depression of the macula lutea. The central depression of the macula lutea is known as the fovea centralis. So the fovea centralis is the centrally depressed area present in the macula lutea, that is known as the fovea centralis. Okay. And this is the region of the most distinct vision, and this is one of the thinnest area in the eye also. Okay, the fovea centralis. So you have to know about the optic disc, macula lutea, and the fovea centralis. Now next one is the refractive media of the eye. Now the refractive media of the eye, when the light will pass through the cornea, it will pass through the aqueous chamber or anterior chamber, aqueous humor, anterior chamber. Then it will pass through the pupil, pass through the posterior chamber, and pass through the lens. So this is, so you have to know about the cornea, then aqueous humor, then the lens. Right? About cornea, it is the transparent structure which is present in the anterior 1/6 part of the outermost layer of the eyeball. This is the cornea, which is next one is the aqueous humor. So the aqueous humor is present in the anterior part. So over here, this is the lens. This one is the iris, and this one is the cornea. In between the cornea and the iris, this chamber is known as the anterior chamber. And in between the iris and the lens, this one, can you see the small part of the chamber? This one is known as the posterior chamber. So the aqueous humor is the clear fluid which is present in the anterior chamber and the posterior chamber of the eyeball. Now this anterior chamber and the posterior chamber will communicate with each other through pupils. So over here, the central aperture of the iris, that is known as the pupil. Through the pupil, anterior chamber will communicate with the posterior chamber. Now what is the main function of the aqueous humor? This is going to provide the nutrition to the lens and the cornea. The next one is the vitreous body. Now we have the vitreous body, which consists of the vitreous humor. Now the vitreous humor is the clear and the transparent structure which will fill the eyeball behind the lens. So behind the lens, the whole area, this is wholly filled with the vitreous body or the vitreous humor. Now over there in the vitreous humor, we have the 99% water, and the other part are occupied by the salt, collagen fiber, hyaluronic acid. Now the function of the vitreous body is it supports the posterior surface of the lens. Next one is it will also help in maintaining the intraocular pressure. Now the last one is known as the lens. Now this one is the lens. The lens is the thick and the transparent biconvex disc. It is circular in outline and it is held in its position. Now what is the support of the lens? Mainly it is kept in its own position by the suspensory ligament of the lens. You can see the suspensory ligament. This suspensory ligament is attached on either end of the lens, and next one is it is attached to the ciliary process. Now when the ciliary muscle will contract, the suspensory ligament will get relaxed. Now when the suspensory ligament of the lens will relax, the lens, there will be the increase in diameter, or there will be the thickening of the lens. Now as the lens will get thickened, this will help in the accommodation for the near vision. This is all about the lens. Now you have also learned about the histological diagram of the lens also. So it is covered by the highly elastic capsule. Now beneath the capsule, can you see this is the anterior surface? Same thing is over here. This is the anterior surface of the lens, which is lined by the single layer of the cuboidal epithelium. You can see the same thing over here also. This is the single layer of the cuboidal epithelium. Now on the periphery of the cuboidal epithelium, on the periphery of the anterior layer, can you see over here? This cuboidal cell will get elongate, and they will form the fiber of the lens, which will form the bulk of the lens. So this fiber of the lens are formed from the cuboidal cells. This will elongate and form the fiber. So this is all about the lens. Okay, do you have any confusion? Do you have any question in the eyeball? This is all about today's class. Sit here.